I'm going to open up a saved project, but I just want to make sure you understand this keyboard that's built in has 3 controls over here. One is the arrow going both ways, and that simply allows you to scroll to a different register. Okay, so you can play and audition sounds at different parts of the keyboard without having all 88 keys in there. This infinite symbol will hold notes down as long as it's green. And then the wrench just lets you, again, have some MIDI controls here, what channel you want, which instruments are being controlled by it, velocity, range, etc. You can also see that up here, though, the MIDI mapping. And you can see that's a very simple MIDI mapping here with this button. You can see which controllers and which sounds at a glance. Under the DSP, of course, you've got all that extra information about hardware connections. Under the metering, you can decide what do you want to meter. Do you want to meter speakers? Do you want to meter a bus? And so on, okay, or a channel input. So instead of having a whole bank of meters like on a traditional mixer, you've got one, then you can just choose what do you want to look at any given time based on what you need. Very, very intelligent design here. You can add notes to any project for any session that you're working on. I think I've shown everything except for files. And so files are presets. So these are configurations I've made. I've shown you the wall of Sith. I've got something here called Creepsville. Creepsville? What's that, Rob? Well, it's going to load. You can see it's loading the D1. Now the D1's pretty heavy coded synthesizer there. It's loading 3 synthesizers, and it's loading a keyboard controller called the KB1, and it's 3 instances of that, so 3 separate. So now this keyboard is controlling the phosphor synth here. This keyboard controller is controlling the ISEM, and this one is controlling, oh, I just changed key there, the D1. So that's a remembering. It's a preset. It's got all the things that in that session that I explored, all of the effects that I had put in, and all of these keyboards are configurable to a specific key. For example, this is in the key of G minor. It should probably be, yeah, G minor. That's the relative minor to E major. So I can play chords over here in E major. And if I wanted to hear that, I could bring up the volume level of the ISEM. So I can go 6, 4, 5, mid resolve at 1, and then I could solo over it in the key of A minor and have some nice little, or G minor, sorry. So those are some of the things that you could do here. Of course, you could just keep everything there in G major. Oh, there's all the different scales. Major pentatonic, Arabic, Phrygian, Lydian, you name it, for E. Locrian, Mixolydian. Let's just try Mixolydian. And whatever you set these to, again, when you save it, it'll remember even all of those micro settings that you make on your keyboard controller. So this is something called KB1, and you can decide what the keyboard looks like, whether it looks like strings, whether it looks like notes, how many rows you want. It's really cool. Let me just show you. For each of these, we had our 3 synthesizers, and now we've got 3 keyboard controllers. So this one is going to control the D1. Let me just enlarge it here by grabbing the little icon down there. And you can see with the keyboard layout, you would have, you could use a classic one. You could use a scale. Okay, so you control that here with your keyboard layout. How many rows? Do you want 2 rows? Do you want 2 octaves? There's going to be a lot more buttons here. Yeah. So you can see I've just created now kind of two octaves, 2 rows. And I can change the key. Let's go to E flat, Locrian. Okay, and it'll remember it. Now, I've done this with another one. Let's see, maybe the triple keys KB1 bop. Now, this is going to switch to a completely different setup. But I think, again, I've got those same 3 synths, the D1, the ISEM, and the phosphor. But now I've got a setting that sounds like this from the D1. It's much more like I'm going to create some music for movies here. And now, it's like a bell tree I've made here, 3 rows for that preset sound on one of my synthesizers. And here's what's cool. It's like if you want to know which one, it says it gave it a name, KB1M4. You could give it context names. So you could say, no, actually that's the D1. So when I look up there, I know, look, that green, that's the audio signal. That's coming from the D1. This is coming, you saw the trigger there, from the SEM. So I'll just call that SEM. Pretty cool. And so I know that this one, this final one here, is going to be the phosphor. You can see the signal level there. And if I set everything to the same key, I can't hit a wrong note. So that's a big power tip for you there on using a controller like KB-1. Yes, it does cost a few bucks, but you can see how I'm unlocking the power of that purchase because I really don't know all of my notes and scales as I should, and maybe you don't either. So this is a way that gets you over that what could be a roadblock to your song compositions.